Well, that brings the first round of games kind of to a close, because when I'm shooting this, I think Poland are still playing, and when I last checked, they were losing 1-0 to Senegal. So that could make my list of the biggest upsets and biggest positives so far in the first round of games. So I don't want to piss anyone off, especially if you're from Poland, but we'll see how that pans out. But at the moment, you won't make it into my clip. So biggest positives in my point of view so far in this phenomenal tournament. Mexico, straight from the get-go, the way they played against Germany. Now, I watched and I laughed and I was just baffled at some opinions out there, clearly unbiased, I'm sure, but a lot of critics were saying that Germany were unlucky in that game, and Mexico, in their own way, were lucky to get away with the win. I could not disagree more. I think they played to their game plan well, and as of the most clear-cut chances, I thought Mexico could have easily made it 2 or 3. They squandered countless opportunities in the final third, but the way that Mexico played in that game was simply phenomenal game plan, in the way that they were continuously pushing forward, and Toni Kroos, who usually anchors that midfield alongside Khedira, was forced to play higher up because Carlos Vela was tucking back. A little bit of tactical analysis here. Let's talk tactics. Remember that segment. Because he was dropping back and defending, it caused Kroos to move a little higher up the park, and therefore they were putting more numbers forward and more susceptible to the counter-attack, which in the end played right into Mexico's hands. So they were a clear positive for me so far. Mexico, along with, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the result alone for England is a huge thing, because England notoriously are on the other end of that type of dynamic where they pound the team and then they eventually slip up and let a goal in. I mean, I'm not going to sing their praises the way I've seen, but I do think that the English players, especially this time around, getting some of the most horrific treatment from some people in the media. There are countless instances where they've been scrutinised unjustly, but I think their heart was in the right place. I think the first 30 minutes was some of the most impressive football I've seen from an English national team, so I'm going to suppress this Scottish need in me to insult them so much, and I'm just going to say that it was a good result. As far as the biggest upsets, I mean, I already mentioned Mexico so far, but if the Senegal result goes as it is at the moment, I'm not going to include that. That would be a big upset. But I think Japan versus Colombia. Now, there was a red card, of course, played into Japan's favour, but they looked good, comfortable on the ball. Colombia don't look as threatening going forward in the counter-attack as they did in the last World Cup, where they were just destroying teams. They were just absorbing that pressure and then hitting them on the counter-attack, which, of course, I talk about it enough, I love that style of football. So that was a big surprise for me going forward at this point in the tournament. Iceland getting a draw with Argentina. Is it a surprise, though? We know Argentina tend to stutter at the start of these tournaments, so let me just kind of set the tone there. It's impossible to read what's going to happen from this game going forward. Of course, Germany losing is not a good sign, but Germany, you can never count them out the way they're moving. That team is so stacked with a machine-like formation that you can just rotate players in. I would play Marco Reus from the start in the next game. I don't think Draxler was as effective. But I think that you can never count them out based on this result. It's going to be difficult for them, but I wouldn't immediately write off the world champions. And then what was my biggest takeaway so far? I love the pace that a lot of these games are getting played at. I mean, the last minute goal from Uruguay, there's been a lot of last minute finishes, which I love. I mean, Iran, Uruguay, England, we're left with a lot of nail-biting finales, which shows that these teams are not willing to accept draws or sit back. They especially in the first game around, where it can be very tentative, but they're going for it. They're going for the jugular, and I love that about the tournament so far. I'm still going to stick by my guns with Spain. I think Ronaldo's free kick was probably the moment of the tournament so far. Mertens' goal was great, I think, for Belgium, but I'm still sticking by my guns that Spain on my team, because when you look at the goals conceded, a De Gea mistake, a penalty kick, and a free kick. Going forward, they looked patient, they looked deadly, and more importantly, they looked together, which was a big thing that was going to come under question with their coach leaving at this point. So, after the first round of games, I'm loving the tournament so far. Let me know if you are in the comment section below. I will be back with more clips. I will actually be back in the LA studio to do some clips from there, talking about a more broader conversation around why I think Mexico is vital to the soccer world here in the US. But let me know what you think of the tournament so far. Peace.